Hello and welcome to another episode of Legion by the Numbers. I'm Joe Eames, and in this episode we're going to be looking at the Wookie Warriors, specifically their melee damage output. How much damage they do to various types of foes, and with various outfits of or kits, various setups with them. And specifically we're going to try to answer the question of how much value does the shield Wookie do versus the bowcaster, and how good is having an aim token on them with something like offensive push and hunter versus some of the other upgrades that you could take. So let's go ahead and outfit our Wookie Warriors. We're gonna start off with the Battle Shield Wookie because that gives us the opportunity to have the 2 red melee die for attack. So we're gonna go with the Battle Shield Wookie there, and then for training, we're going to go with Tenacity, obviously. That should be stapled to your Wookie Warriors. If you have the Wookie Warriors, because they're a melee unit, you should absolutely be stapling Tenacity to them. The second one is the one that's a little bit, has some options here. You could be going with Offensive Push. You could be going with Into the Fray for some defense. It doesn't really help on offense because they already surge to hit, so that extra surge token doesn't help on offense, but it does on defense. You could go with Hunter because you anticipate attacking Jedi a lot. These are your kind of anti-Jedi unit you want to be tying up Jedi with. Possibly Situational Awareness or Protector if you're going to be using them specific. Well, no, you wouldn't go with Protector. But those are kind of your options there for training. So let's go ahead with Offensive Push. This will actually give us the same analysis as if they had Hunter with or without that aim token. That will be how we would outfit them to be most effective offensively. And let's head over to the Legion Dice Simulator and start looking at how this is going to work. So there are 103 points to outfit them like this. Now, I didn't give them gear or grenades. You certainly might be outfitting them with something like Recon Intel. So you could have a few more points hit in there. They have scale, so a lot of the other gear options don't necessarily help with that. Since they are using Offensive Push, I could imagine using Precise 1 to... because you think you're going to be using a lot of aim tokens, I could imagine going with targeting scopes there. But for now, we're going to just outfit them this way. So 103 points. The 3 basic units I'll have 6 black, and then the 4th, your shield Wookie, he's given us 2 red in melee. They search to hit. They don't have anything else. They do have the duelist, which is a really great thing. And that's the other thing about having the aim tokens. Another reason why maybe even Hunter is a great idea is you can get the Pierce. Of course, Hunter is really going to more apply with your big units with a lot of hit points, which are mostly Jedi, and most of them are all immune to Pierce and melee. So that may not come into play as much, but we'll look at some scenarios and kind of see what happens when we do get that Pierce 1. So we've got them outfitted 6 black, 2 red, search to hit, and we're going to go with the 1 aim. And let's just look at their basic damage output with that aim token against before the defender's dice come into play. We're looking at 6.4 points of damage, obviously a ton of damage output going out there. So what happens if they go up against, say, some B1 units that are white with no surge to block? They wouldn't really have much in the way of defensive tokens. So against B1s, they're doing 5.3 without the aim. Let's see how much effect that aim has. 4.5. So that's almost a point where that's almost another B1 to have the aim token going on there. Now, if instead of the aim token, we actually had an aim token, but we spent it on Pierce, that's a really good question is, should we be saving the aim token to re-roll or for Pierce? And again, this question is a little bit hard to use in a simulator because this one actually really depends a lot on what the die themselves have rolled. But on average, with the Pierce, you're going to 5.2, whereas with the aim, you are back at 5.36. So generally, an aim token against B1s is better to use to reroll dice. Now, what about more like a Rebels? So same layout, 2, 6 black, red, search to hit with 1 aim token. Let's look at it with the aim token. 4.2, almost basically 4.3 without the aim token. 3.6. So again, a really big difference on the aim token. What if we have Pierce instead? 4.5. Wow. So now when it comes to Rebels or something else that's white surge to block, the Pierce matters a lot more than the aim token did. That makes some sense because it eliminates their ability to use one of the blocks that they roll. And now finally, red with no block. So let's start actually without the aim. Let's start with their worst roll. No aim, no Pierce, 2.75. If they have the aim, it goes up to 3.2. But if we spend that aim on Pierce, then 3.7. So obviously against red surge with no surge, best to use your aim, get that aim and use it for Pierce. That's your best damage output there. Let's do one more with, let's say we're going up against Jedi. Surge to block. There isn't much red surge to block that isn't Jedi, other than maybe the Death Troopers. So with nothing, no aim, they're going to be doing 1.8. With the aim, they're going to up to 2.4. And finally, and then there's no reason to put in Pierce because they're probably not going to be able to have Pierce. So that aim token still has a pretty good effect. Not as big of a deal as it did on the other, the red with no block, white surge with surge, and white without surge, but still makes a pretty big difference. Now what happens if we get the best option is a Wookie takes some damage but doesn't die, so we get the tenacity to kick in, get that other red die. Let's go back to white with no block. We still have, we'll keep our aim token in there. 6 points of damage, white with a block. 5 points of damage, red with no block. It's going to probably be around 3.6. Oh, wow. Pretty big, starting to see a pretty big fall off. Red with block, 2.45. And then once we lose a Wookiee, what happens there? For against the B1s, 5 points against more like your Rebels, 4 points against your clones and storms, 3 points, and against Jedi, 2 points. So even losing that first Wookiee isn't that much of isn't too bad. Let's kind of go with the average here. White with a block. As we start to lose, we saw that they were, I think it was 4 points. As we start to lose Wookiees, the damage seems to go down about 1 point per Wookiee. We can't lose the last unit. We would actually lose our shield Wookiee at this point. About a point as we lose each Wookiee. So the red Wookiee, the shield Wookiee that gives us the 2 red is by far the most valuable. But some really good damage output on those Wookiees. In melee, they can really just put it out there. And that aim token really made a difference. And the nice thing is that it's really about duelist. Aim doesn't help as much on like the red with no surge or red surge to block. But when you can use it as Pierce, and again, you can't do that generally against Jedi, but there are still a fair number of units that are red with there aren't really many red units with a surge to block that aren't Pierce immune, but there's a couple. So that Pierce really makes a difference as the defense die get better, but the aim token makes a big difference as the defense die come up. Now, just for curiosity here, where the aim was a really good deal, let's go back to our kind of full 6 black and 2 red, going up against, say, B1s with the aim token. We were normally doing 5.3, but what happens if we do outfit them with the targeting scopes so that those targeting scopes give them precise 1? So let's give them that precise 1 and see. So we're doing 5.3 against B1s. Now with that, it goes to 5.56. So a little bit of improvement. Against Rebels, we were doing 4.3. With the targeting scopes, 4.45. Not as much of a difference there. Against red, no surge. Without the targeting scopes, 3.2 with the aim token with the targeting scopes, 3.3. So the aim token loses its value the tougher the opponent is, and targeting scopes doesn't really add too much there. So unless you're really planning on doing a lot of attacking against B1s and using aim tokens, which now Hunter doesn't work you're only going to get the offensive push pretty much once in the game. So that's only one time you actually get to use that. So looks like in this case, one of the takeaways to take here is that targeting scopes are not a good fit for the Wookiees, but giving them aims so that they can either use the aim or use the duelist is actually a really, really great idea. And then the last question that we really kind of wanted to answer was, is the shield Wookiee worth it, or is it better? How much of a difference does it make to have the shield Wookiee versus having the bowcaster Wookiee, which still is good in melee, 2 black instead of 2 red, not quite as good, but still pretty good, but gives you some versatility so that you have impact and ranged pierce, which is really obviously a really big deal. A lot of armor in the game these days. So let's go to our full unit, which would be 8 black, no red. Until one of them takes a damage, we'll go back to no precise. We'll assume that the aim token is still pretty present there, but maybe because of the offensive push or whatever. So you're in melee attacking some B1s. The damage is 4.9. If you switch out for the shield Wookiee, how much difference does that make? 5.3. So that makes a pretty big amount of difference. Let's go to the white surge to block. So something like rebels with just the I did this wrong. It's going to be 8 black. My bad. It's not 2 points. It's 4 points. And if we go with the shield Wookiee against something like rebel troopers, 4.3. So again, a small difference. The shield Wookiee makes a small difference, but it's not as much as you'd assume. Red, no surge. We're doing 2.9, so almost 3 points. With the shield Wookiee compared to the shield, having the shield Wookiee instead, 3.2. So roughly that shield Wookiee adds about 1/3 of a point of damage in melee, but you lose all of your versatility in ranged. No impact anymore. No ability to do ranged pierce. So that's a pretty big difference there. I guess when we're looking at red versus going against red, the aim token isn't as valuable as spending it on pierce. So let's look at that again. If we do just all of our Wookiees, so the bowcaster Wookiee, which would be 8 black, that's 3.45. Adding in those 2 red with those pierce moves it up to 3.7. Again, still saves it about 0.3 points of damage difference per attack. Now, of course, when you're attacking a Jedi, and if you manage to get 3 hits on them, that's an average of an additional point of damage, and that can actually be what takes out the Jedi. So that can really be a big deal. And of course, the shield Wookiee does have some other versatility because it can give you armor 1. It could make a pretty big difference against Jedi. Not so much. They have their impact, so not such a big deal. But against other types of units, that can make a difference. Or keeping them more survivable while they're out on the table getting shot at. That armor 1 can actually be pretty useful. So there you go. There's your kind of differences on the different Wookiees. Again, takeaways. The aim is getting them aims is a really good idea. So Hunter is actually probably more viable. I didn't think it was such a good idea with Wookiees, but actually can be viable, especially if you plan on having them be your anti-Jedi. It wasn't as valuable, though, with the red surge to block, and you can't use the pierce, so maybe that's not actually as big deal. If you're going to go up against Magna Guards, or you think you might go, maybe that matters more because the Hunter can happen when you have a Magna Guard that's wounded, but not off the table. Or any of the other units that leader units that aren't Jedi, aren't red dice. So Hunter maybe still pretty questionable. Offensive push obviously great, or sharing out aim tokens with them through Exemplar, obviously a great thing to do. So really good combos with your Wookiees is getting them aim tokens. And that's it. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you found something useful out of it. I learned a little bit here about how to outfit my Wookiees for sure. I also kind of think that the shield Wookiee's nice, but maybe not worth it to keep that versatility up with the bowcaster Wookiee. If you like this content, be sure and like and subscribe. Hit that like button, subscribe. Leave some comments if you thought I missed anything or there's anything you'd like to see as well. And hope to see you in another video.